Well, hello folks. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I am living in Minnesota, so to me it is a good afternoon. So, welcome to my video, and this video is specifically going to be on, as you can see on your screen, urban violent crime and legal gun ownership, a story of geographical assault in the U.S. Basically, before I start actually presenting my stuff, my data, and the information that I want to talk about, I want to mention something. This video is not necessarily, although it can be easily discerned or perceived as supporting the gun rights, because it's talking about legal gun ownership, and I am one of those people who own a permit to legally carry a gun. But believe me, my intent with this video is not necessarily any kind of supporting argument for or against gun control. I will share a lot of data, a lot of statistics and information in general about gun violence in the United States. So having said that, allow me please to start my presentation. First off, I want to start with one of my data sets, and I will bring this up now. Okay, this is the data. This is one of my data sets, and oops, okay. And I did obtain this from a data source that I have. I use. It's called Kaggle. A Kaggle is actually a huge compilation of data sets about most anything you can imagine. The site itself was created and maintained for data scientists, data analysts, like people like myself. I work as data analyst, sometimes data engineer, sometimes data scientist. So those are the titles that I use at my work, different projects, different works, different contracts. But this is pretty much what I do, and I have an access to data sets such as the one that you're looking at now. The data source is I basically found out the data sets in gun violence in America, and I found out, obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of data sets, and this is one of them. So what you're seeing here is first off, I want to start with the source of this data set, and the source is CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. And the total number of records on this one is 239,678, almost 240,000 rows of data. And as you see here, for instance, I just want to kind of introduce a little bit of my data, overall data, nature of data. It does have the incident URL. So if anybody wants to see, for instance, the detailed information about this particular incident, and it goes by incident ID here, they can see all the information about that, and plus even they can put this address on their browser if they want to and see what was said, what was written, what was published on that particular incident in the news media. And it goes, all the other details. And there is basically plenty of details about each of these 240,000 total gun incidents. So I want to basically just briefly walk you through what I did with this to be able to kind of discern and make sense out of this data set. One of my pivot tables is showing, depending on what I choose. For instance, in this case, I chose state of Minnesota because I do live in Minnesota. And this gives again, each of these numbers are, those 5-digit numbers are ID, the incident ID. And in the state of Minnesota, in the selected state, it gives by city: St. Paul, Pine Island, Montgomery, Minneapolis, West St. Paul. It goes by city, and the detail is the address, date, that particular date, what happened, shot, wounded, injured, death, or drug involvement, or shots fired, or brandishing, whatever the way it was recorded on this data set. Some of them are blank. And the blanks are actually, it could be blank, it could be unknown, unavailable. It shows also as blank. For instance, I live in Apple Valley. So if I want to find the situation in Apple Valley to be able to use it even kind of a little bit more usability, I added slicers here. Slicers are basically Excel feature that is provided by pivot tables. You can create slicers so you can easily search what you're looking for. For instance, like I said, I live in Minnesota, right? So I'm going to click on Minnesota, and it's going to update it for the state of Minnesota, the same cities that I was showing you before. And I want to see the situation in Apple Valley because this is the city I live in Minnesota. So when you look at this, the data shows, and by the way, I forgot to mention, the data set is, as you see here, from January 1st, 2013, all the way to the end of 2018. So basically, we're looking at 6 years of data. So in those 6 years in Apple Valley, Minnesota, there was only one incident, total one incident. That was somebody got shot and died. And the classifications that you're seeing here is murder, accidental, suicide, double pipes, suicide. These are the kind of the data format that I think police records or court records used and utilized, and this is how that was provided. And eventually, I was able to find the data in this format. So this is one good way of looking at, and depending on where you're living, you can easily find any information. But I want to give a little more kind of comprehensive comparison. So for this, I want to go to, this is the graph data that I created to be able to support my pivot chart. And I have 2 different pivot charts, and I provided that is in this way as total and also pivot chart by year between, again, 2013 and 2018, because for each year, if I try to show all 50 states, and that will be very difficult. So I kind of divide up into 2 tabs. And by the way, there are a total of 51 entries for states, and one of them is extra. One is the District of Columbia. They consider that, or they classify that as also as a state. So we have 51 entries in state section. As you see here, this is overall. This is overall, not classified by year. So this is a total of 6 years. And what we're seeing here is the highest number of incidents. Again, this is number of incidents, gun incidents. The highest one is state of Illinois, 17,556. The second closest to it is California. It's closely followed by California. Third one is the state of Florida. And the state of Texas is right here, is the 4th largest one. And all the others are kind of, you're seeing the way they're distributed. And especially if you look at, for instance, I look at, where Minnesota is located. And Minnesota is one of the lowest number of gun incidents in the nation. And the absolute lowest ones are, by looking at the graph visually, it is Hawaii, Idaho, and also like North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont. These are, and there's a couple more states here, Wyoming and Vermont. Yeah, Vermont, I just mentioned that. So these are the smallest gun incidents in the nation. And Minnesota is, in my opinion, is pretty much, at the close to lower end. Again, the 4 highest are those states that I just mentioned. And this was again by total 6 years, and one can see if they want to see it, by year. They can pick and choose, for instance, which year, depending on what year they wanna pick that. And that one, that would be, for instance, I chose the year 2018. So, for instance, let's say I want to choose, let's say, I want to choose 2013, and maybe I want to choose just to compare those 4 states that I found out as the highest. Those were, like, one of them was California, the other one was Illinois, and Florida was one, and also state of Texas was also pretty high. So I want to just choose those 4 states and compare for the year 2013. And in fact, let's compare them for all 6 years again. So select all, and all those 6 years. If I want to compare those, then is there any way I can make this smaller? Hold on a second. It's just kind of getting in the way. Okay, there you go. So those 4 states, as you see, going by those 6 years, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 is out of range, and I can just bring that in too. And here's 18. If you just notice that there is a sharp drop from 2017 down to 2018 consistently for all those 4 states. That's interesting, and that would be nice to be able to explain the causes, the attributes of this drop between those 2 years from 2017 to 2018 across the board. Across the board meaning those 4 states, because those are the ones I'm looking at as highest gun incident states. So anyway, this is also the way you can use the graph by using the pivot charts and slicers as well. And so this is again the overall appearance across the board, across the nation, all 50 states. If you want to see the number of gun incidents, this is not necessarily the number of deaths. This is the number of gun incidents, such as I was showing you here. For instance, this one is armed robbery with injury, death, and or evidence of DGU found. DGU is standing for defensive gun usage. So basically, if whether there's an incident, wounded, injured, for instance, shot, wounded, injured, so there is no death. So the numbers are given, identifying whether there was gun usage, the nature of it, number of wounded, number of death, and number of brandishing, maybe if there was DGU involved, such as defensive gun usage or not. All that information was included in this data set. And just to kind of overall to see what's going on, it's interesting. For instance, 2013 is in compared to the other years somehow negligible. And again, I don't have an explanation about the nature of the data between the 2013 from 2013 to 2014, but it's a good data set. And again, those 4, here's a legend here. The blues are count of incidents, so number of incidents are blue, and the orange is sum of number of guns, or in short, just the number of guns in the incident, and the number of the gray is number of killed, and the light orange is number of injured people. So again, when you look at the number of guns here, you're seeing quite a bit of spikes here, the number of guns involved in each of those incidents. So that is one of the ones that I wanted to show. So I will move this away, and I will bring another data set. Allow me, please. So I will bring another data set. This one was gun violence data, right? And there's yet mass shootings, which I will also bring that, but not yet. And yeah, there is another data set that I will bring now. So this one is gun crimes between the years 2006 to 2020, 15 years. Those 15 years. That is just a second. Just a quick second. I want to make it a little bit smaller here, so it's not getting in the way. There you go. Okay, so what we're looking here is first off, the number of records that I have. Is my computer freezing now? Weird. I'm trying to make it move. Oops. Okay, that's I'm having a little bit of moving my cursor problems. I don't know why I haven't been having problems, with that. All of a sudden, when I started the presentation, I'm having problems moving the cursor. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for that one. So that is actually a very bothering situation because I have to go back and forth a lot. Now let me just pull this out and kind of fool with that. I'm gonna save this and it's already saved. I'm gonna close this. Gun deaths. This data set is gun deaths only. I mean total number of gun deaths from gun violence. So I'm gonna close this and see what's going on with this data set on my Excel file. So gun violence and gun deaths. Open that again. There's a lot of data in that one, close to 540,000 deaths. So sometimes, having several Excel files of this size open might cause that. Okay, I'm going to bring this back. It looks like it's okay now. So there you go. This is, let me make sure that it's fitting in the frame. There you go. So, come on. Number of gun deaths is 529,234. Almost, I mean, very close to 530,000, right? And as you see, the data is the month for that year. The intent, whether it's a suicide, homicide, or something else. Police, that data, I'm not looking at it for now, so I'm going to skip this. The gender, sex, age, race. They are using some kind of numerator for Hispanic separately, and that's not going to be part of my analyses and the place and education. So let me go to the pivot table of it, and actually I want to show you directly the pivot chart because that shows a lot of good information. So the pivot chart here is, I put a slicer here which is for intent. So intent has 5 different classifications. Excuse me. Those are accidental, homicide, not available, they don't have information, suicide, and undetermined. They have 2 different specifications if they don't have any of these. One is NA means they have nothing, and undetermined is still they have nothing, but there is a different kind of classification the way they were tabulating the data. So basically, what I'm curious here is I'm looking at the most number of deaths because I was really truly surprised. I don't want to say I was surprised. I mean, I was kind of well aware of the numbers, but it's different when you're looking at in detail all the numbers. What did I say? The total number of deaths is these are all deaths basically. All these numbers you're looking at here on this graphic are number of deaths. And again, the time frame is what? 2000 from 2006 to 2020, 15 years. So 15 years, what did I say? Close to 530,000 people died, were killed by firearms. And let's see, let's look at the distribution here. I want to look at the homicide. So the homicide rates is like this. So the number of people is the highest group is high school or GED, and the lowest group is BA plus, means bachelor's degree, 4-year degree, or beyond, such as master's, doctorate degrees. So among those, this is the lowest number of people lost their lives, highest incidence occurred in this group. You might think it's interesting because those people with less than high school education, their totals are less than high school. It is because there are a lot more people with high school or GED designations than those without. That's why there's a, but if you look at this, there's a similar attributes between those two groups, and simply because this number in population is higher than that number, so that's why, therefore, it's being highest. And not available is very little in this graphic. In my Excel file is, I'm having a problem again on this monitor because this is a different kind of a monitor, and it's not because of the resolution issues, I'm having problems with that. So I just allow me a few seconds to fix this. Also, the size of the file is making a difference here. There you go. There you go. So if I put it all the way up, to make it fit to the screenshots frame size, sometimes I'm having a problem with that. So put it up a little bit. I can see the tabs. There you go. I want to go back to pivot chart. So what I was trying to show you was also this. There is some college classification designation. As you see, some college is a lot less than high school GED, but considerably still larger, bigger than bachelor BA plus classification. So this is, again, I chose homicide, right? And look at the highest number, 77, close to 78,000 people. So I want to clear this, removing the filter, and the total was, for some reason, the numbers are getting kind of screwed up. So, well, I didn't really intend to do that. Well, why is it doing this? I don't know. I want to go to suicide. So go to suicide. So again, these are keeping the totals here. And out of this, the suicides is 115,734. Again, in this classification, the high school. And across the board, among all these education levels, the numbers, the total suicide numbers is higher proportion, has higher proportion, exceeding the homicides across the board, exceeding the homicides easily. And that's one other way of to show that is see that the total number was, you remember, total that is 529,234. And what you can do is for instance, you can just filter this for homicide and suicide. But I'm going to show it, visually, and it kind of is easier to operate that. Click on these buttons and visually show that. You can easily see here the number of suicides is much higher than homicides. So that is actually an interesting fact, isn't it? So when you look at the total number of 530,000 people got killed in those 15 years, and if you look at the annual average is about over 32,000 people. Some years, such as 2020, 2019, over 40,000 people, like 45,000 people lost their lives through violence with firearms. So again, clear this filter, and if you choose both, and I want to look at the accidental as well. And the numbers will change drastically. Obviously, accidental, as you can imagine, is a whole lot less than the homicide and suicide. Yet the distribution of it among the across the board, those education levels, BA plus, high school and GED, less than high school, not available, that means no information available, or some college down here, similar distribution, high school and GED has the highest number of also accidents. So, and when you look at the total numbers, again, we're going back to totals, the distribution is like this. So altogether, that adds up to what? 530,000. Another information that I want to share with is this. We're talking about urban violent crime and illegal gun ownership, especially number of assaults with firearms and number of thefts, right? So, look at this. I was looking at the casualties of the Syrian war, civil war, and there are different numbers. But I'm going to take the one that is provided officially by the United Nations. So United Nations, it stated that it had documented deaths of at least 350,209 identified individuals in the conflict between March 2011 and March 2021. But caution, the figure was certainly an undercount that specified only a minimum verifiable number, which makes a lot of sense because the term that they're using is identified individuals. But nevertheless, I'm going to take this number as the official statistics of United Nations, although I'm aware of what this caveat is, because of difficulties to identify everybody who lost their lives, because there are also numbers here between various groups. varying between like a 603,000 to 620,000, but I will stick with this number. Now look at this. 350,000 people lost their lives during the Syrian conflict between March 2011, March 2021, 10 years. In 10 years, 350,000 people lost their lives, whereas in the statistics for the United States that I was sharing with you, in those 15 years, 530,000 people lost their lives. In those 15 years, 530,000 people. Now, is there a civil war in the United States? No. Is there a civil strife? Civil uprising? None of those. I think, folks, this is an epidemic. This is a public health epidemic. And I want to verify, I want to repeat myself that when I'm talking about this, when I'm talking about urban violent crime and legal gun ownership, I mentioned that at the beginning. I'm not here to use numbers to support gun control or to bring argument against it. I'm definitely not supporting the gun control that was intended in the way that Democrats are bringing. That is my political opinion. But I'm not here trying to defend any form of political approach to this issue. I'm only trying to share the data, the information that I just mentioned, and try to describe the nature of the data, the source of the data, the detail and the structure of the data, and anyone with any kind of question or any kind of suspicion can easily either drop a note under my video that if they want me to prove these numbers, I can basically share the files with them. If they want, I can give them a link that is not going to be available, but if they want to, I can put on my, again, comment section, or even send that link to them to a different website, which is my other personal website I'm in, and not the YouTube site, and they can even download if they want to and see themselves. But this is going to be the detailed level of information, such as this one, and also the one I was showing you before. This was the history of mass shootings, and the one that I was talking about, which is this, and I'm going to bring again. And here, if they want to know, they can go into, if they want to download this file, they can download it. They can put this URL on their browser, that link on their browser, or if they want to, they can do the same thing. They can put this link on their browser, and they can see what was published about that particular incident in the history, in that 6 years history, and what was the newspapers for that particular state or city was saying. Same thing again. The link, incident link, that last 5-digit number is the incident ID, which is here, this one. So I am basically showing and sharing data sets with anyone who is interested in gun violence and number of lives that was claimed by gun violence in the United States, and for those given time frames. One of them was, again, 6 years between the years 2013 and 2018. The other one was between 2006 and 2020, 15 years, a number of deaths. I also want to share one other data set, and that is number of mass shooting incidents. And the date frame for this one is pretty wide, starting from 1924 all the way to 2022. Very recent. Very recent. Obviously, we're in 2023, so we don't have the complete number. Unfortunately, we cannot say that. We're not going to have any more the rest of the year. And when you look at this total, as you see, it gives you by city, state, number of death, injured, and total, and description. So when you look at the number of that, it is close to 4,000 people. 3,896 people lost their lives only and only, this is very specific, only and only during these mass shooting, just like, Uvalde, Texas, Columbine, Colorado, in Illinois. I mean, you tell me, Indianapolis recently in the shopping mall. In all these places, the number of shootings claimed close to 4,000 lives, and each of them are described. I think these are the good descriptions of each of those incidents, such as this one: four teenagers, one of whom died, were shot at the end of the graduation party at a brew pub. I mean, all restaurants, schools, high schools, colleges, shopping malls, churches, movie theaters, all those places are listed here on this data set. I did not do any particular, graphics analyses or pivot table analyses or any other type of analyses to kind of slice and dice the data sets on this one, because I wanted to focus more on the overall data as far as, the overall gun violence, number of lives claimed by gun violence, and also age information, race information. For instance, we can also do the same thing like I did here. By intent type, whether it's a homicide or suicide, and education level. We can also, for instance, choose by age. For instance, let me choose, let's say, what would be just, I'm going to go with age number 20. So if I go by 20, we're seeing this kind of distribution. And if you see, I don't have the graphic support on this, but I can also, if there's any kind of demand, show the distribution to ages as far as a graphic. Like, what is the age group which is kind of reaching the highest? And example here, I want to get back to my other graphic. And on this one, I'm sorry, this was a mass shootings, not this one, the other one. Looking at the pivot table here, if I just look at the, let's see, slicers, do I have age here? That's not the one giving me the age. And I thought I was have an age one also. I didn't set it up, I think, to also check by age, but you get the picture. I can add that maybe, and in case I do a little more comprehensive one. But this is a kind of distribution. Oh, there you go, there you go. I do have that here. Well, it's again the same thing. It doesn't show the kind of continuum wise the age distribution, because this is all ages. So, I mean, it's going all the way to 109. I mean, somebody, I'm curious, died at the age 109. I don't know. I'm going to put this. Let's see what it says. And, okay, there's one incident. What is it? The guy who got killed maybe was 109 years old. Something like that, probably. But I think, what I want to do is here, I'm going to take the liberties of choosing, usually, with mass shootings and incidents and everything, if you choose age group between 20, like this, age group, 20 to 28, for instance, this is distribution. Again, if you look at whatever the age group you choose, I just happen to choose between 20 and 28. Again, the distribution to education is remaining the same. So that is also another interesting, observation by looking at the data set that we have. And regardless of, the age groups, see, I'm choosing all the age groups. Distribution is pretty much similar. That's not changing. So that is one interesting observation. So basically, to me, the moral of the story, my takeaway from this data set was, or what amazed me most was, still knowing that the annual average number is over 30,000 people that got killed. Couple things. One is It is not all, let's say, what did I say? 32,000 people got killed annually, but not all because of the commission of crime. The crime like burglary, auto theft, rape, whatever. Is one thing, and I just when we look at this here, that is what you're seeing here, right? Intent, and this goes here. Second, intent. What do we say? Homicide. Did it not change it? Just a second. It is being a little bit hassle sometimes, when you're fooling with this. Okay, the homicide means all those factors, all of them combined: burglary, bank robbery, rape, auto theft, you name it. So that is this. Okay, close to 80,000. That's for this highest group, again, high school and GED. And look at this now. When you go to suicide, what did I say? The number changes 115, close 116,000. I'm sorry, 116,000 people. This is consistent across the board. This is consistent across 50 states. So out of 32,000 people, I would say about 60 to 65% of them lost their lives because of homicide. That leaves about 35% of that number of lives were claimed by criminal activities involving firearms. So that's another interesting thing. But still, nevertheless, when you look at the total number of that, both homicide and suicide, we are still, pretty well, the U.S. numbers are really competing with the numbers in Syrian deaths during the 10-year civil war. That is my big takeaway. That's why I'm calling this absolutely epidemic. So basically, now, my thinking, my personal takeaway, my personal thinking is this. To be able to fight with the crime, again, I'm splitting this, the homicide and suicide. So suicide is an entirely different situation. It's a mental health, a public health problem that must be dealt completely in an entirely different manner. It is not a gun problem. It is it's a mental health problem. It's a social problem. It must be tackled in a different way. It is a very complex problem. Let's look at the homicide part of it, the criminal side of it. Numbers are still significant. And in this environment, this is my personal opinion, again, I'm repeating, based on the data sets that I'm looking at, how can you say anyone giving up on their guns, not being armed legally? The key word is legally. In a country where almost close to 500 million guns are basically around, owned, in the possession of the civilians. And with this kind of crime rate, how can you tell people not to be vigilant, not to be armed, not to have legal gun ownership? How can you say that? It is not realistic to expect that, if people give up on their guns, that means law-abiding people, legal gun owners, the crime will go down. In fact, there are numerous and countless analyses by various different independent organizations and thought institutions and universities and other organizations, time and again prove that reducing the gun ownership by civilians, like those people with permit or having legal access to guns, did not even make a little slightest amount of dent on the amount of crime, because it has a totally different nature. So looking at these numbers, and again I repeat, the gun violence is at epidemic levels in the United States. Legal gun ownership, in my opinion, has a very significant role in terms of defending people, themselves, their own lives, and their families' lives, their loved ones' lives, their property. I don't have statistics, and maybe another video I'm going to try to do that. Those places, I mean, I will come up again with similar data sets to prove that point. But I know that I saw enough statistics. Those places, cities, counties, states with higher gun ownership, I mean legal gun ownership, the number of crime is definitely going down. They found statistically significant correlation between number of legal gun ownership and the amount of crime. There is absolutely inverse correlation between those two situations. Having all this information out, that is amazing that in this kind of environment where gun violence is epidemic, I would comfortably and confidently use this word, epidemic, that legal gun ownership must be protected and must not be messed with. Thank you very much for watching my video.